BT, man.
Yes.
Thank you very much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure, Chris. Absolutely.
It's probably been 2 years since I've wanted to get you to sit down and have a discussion. So,
and here we are.
Here we are in the same hotel on the same week.
I know, right?
Bit of poetic justice there,
Yes.
right? So yeah, I got to hear you. I turned up late. My luggage arrived a day late. I had to run upstairs and come downstairs to this black tie ball thing that we had 2 years ago here, and then kind of burst into the room and sat down as this guy got up and stood up, and it was you, and you were about to give this big speech, and I was like totally unprepared, like wholly unprepared. And I guess like, because that was just after you'd done your TV thing as well, right?
Yep.
And so your notoriety was probably riding moderately high, and then being in this community of authors, everyone would have had an idea of what was going to be said. And then you just unloaded this story, and I was like totally, like someone racks a bar with weights that you don't know what it is. You step underneath it, and you're like, "Oh my god, this is really fucking heavy." Yeah, no, too much. And yeah, man, I got blown away by that.
Well, and the weird part was that at that part 2 years ago, I had told my story with VETSports. I co-founded it in 2012, so telling my story had become a thing over the years. But by that point, within the community, it hadn't been a thing yet. People knew the basis of my story. They knew I was a combat wounded veteran and stuff like that, but they never knew the eccentricities of my entire life. And so that's what I wanted to do with that speech, was just kind of lay it all out there, and then kind of just give them the whole narrative.
How different does it feel giving the speech to the industry that you're in now, which is authors, versus the industry that you were in or that you're associated with, which is veterans?
So that's actually different than what I usually do. I don't talk to a lot of veterans, unfortunately. I talk to veterans, but it's more conversationally.
Got you.
It's not giving them, a speech or whatever.
Yeah.
So the differences where I'm at is that speech was for my peers in the romance community, right? And usually my other speeches are for businesses or clubs or groups or whatever. So for me, it meant a lot more because obviously being a creative type, you're used to, and you make emotions your business.
Yes.
Emotions are your business. You understand that. You understand pain and love and all these beautiful things. And so for me, being able to share my story in that room, the response I got back was so much better and greater than what I ever had before.
You think people have got that depth of understanding?
They have that depth, that exact perfect word for it, depth, that compassion. They're just different people. We're wired differently as authors, as creative types.
I agree. I mean, it sounds like, hearing your story sounds like a work of fiction.
Yeah.
Like, for want of a better term.
It feels like it, bro. Feels like it.
You've lived it.
Serious.
So, can you take us from, where do we start with your story? Where do we begin?
I honestly don't even know. That's the weird part, because I touched on everything with that speech. I had a real fucked up childhood, real bad childhood, and a lot of abuse of every variety. And so when I hit about 15, it was that point where I was like, I need to do something. I need to get the fuck out of here. I have to get out of here.
Where was growing up? Where did you
St. Louis, Missouri. That's where I was born and raised.
Okay.
And so I had a lot of members of my family in the military. I also attribute it to this as well, Saving Private Ryan. When I watched that movie at 14 and I saw what those men did on D-Day, I was so profoundly moved by their strength that was that point where I was like, I need to do that. I felt I owed it to them. So at 18, I ended up joining the Army Infantry, shipped off to Fort Benning, Georgia, went through basic training, graduated, went to Germany, trained out for a year, and then ended up in Iraq.
What year's this? What are we talking now?
So 2004 was basic training, 2005 was Germany training up for Iraq, and then 2006 was Iraq.
So you're right in the middle of it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So, 2006 was the worst year in Iraq, actually. In terms of
by
death.
what metric? Okay.
In terms of KIA and then also wounded. It was nonstop. Why? So, what happened with Iraq was it's kind of complicated, but General, Colin Powell.
Yep.
Said at the beginning of the Iraq War that we need to close off the borders. We need to close off the borders because what we're going to do is have a free-for-all. We're invading Iraq, and if we do not protect these borders, you're going to have every swinging dick from the Middle East coming in to fight
Reinforcements.
us. Yep. Guess what happened? Almost everyone we killed or captured was not Iraqi, but from some other Middle Eastern country.
That was around about.
That came in. They're like, hell yeah, they're bringing the fight to us. Let's go. It's like fucking Red Dawn, Middle Eastern style.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, they came in and it was just hell. I mean, it was absolute hell. And then you had Iran backing them with weaponry. What I got hit with was called EFP, explosively formed projectile. And it was developed by Iran. Very basic mechanically, but very, very, like...
Incredibly effective.
Incredibly
So
effective.
let's roll it back. So you've gone through your basic training.
Okay.
How did you feel? How were you excited to go out there? Were you nervous?
Yeah.
Were you?
Yeah.
You were ready to go?
Yeah. I joined. I mean, I literally, when I went in MEPS is where you go to like sign up and you do your paperwork and you get your physical and all that stuff. So I went in there and it came time to pick your job, and so you take an ASVAB test, which it kind of dictates what jobs you can get.
Okay.
So as long as you score 110 on your GT,
Is that like an aptitude test?
pretty much aptitude test, and as long as you score 110 on the main part of it, you can have any job. And I scored 110, so I had all these job options, and we're going through them all. And I look at the lady, and I'm like, "Who are the guys that go in and like kick in the doors and shit and raid houses?" And she's like, "Oh, that's infantry." I'm like, "Yeah, I want to do that."
Yeah.
And she's like, "Are you sure?" She's like, "There's like a lot of other jobs here. Is intelligent." I'm like, "Yes."
Would you have been able to be infantry at like a 105 or a 100?
Yeah.
Okay.
So infantry is the one where if you score frickin' 85, you're going infantry.
Okay.
You're infantry or cook.
So
Those
it's
are your
like
two
the
choices.
it's like the lowest
the
common
lowest of the
denominator.
low.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is why she was like, "Are you sure?"
You've pitched yourself here super high, but you're
Exactly.
actually.
That's what I wanted to fucking do. I wanted to fight. That's the only thing I wanted to do. So yeah, I was amped, absolutely amped. Basic training for me was life changing. I went in a boy, came out a man. Like there's no better way to say that than that.
That's fantastic.
Cliche as it is, it's true as fuck. I went in and just this little fucking punk, disrespectful little punk, and I came out just completely changed.
You'd said that you'd had a difficult childhood and a difficult youth. Did you start to find a little bit more of a sense of purpose there as well?
Absolutely. Yeah. So and a family. So it was the first kind of family I felt in my life.
The family up until then had maybe not
It wasn't a
shown
family.
loyalty.
Yeah, the
betrayal.
definition of family was very off.
Okay.
And so, yeah, it was just this bond, this love that I hadn't felt before, this brotherhood, and it energized me. And then obviously going to my new unit, I talk to my buddies about it all the time, but you know that feeling of youth, right, where the whole world is out in front of you, and it's just
Everything
it's
that you
there,
feel.
and it's beautiful, man. And I'll never forget getting to Germany, flying there, and I was actually crying in Baltimore when I was heading out to Germany because I was scared, scared of leaving my family and leaving everything behind. Change is a scary thing.
Yeah.
And but when I got to Germany, bro, my God, I'm telling you, I was on the bus going from the airport to my new base, and I'm just the feelings I'll never forget.
Rush.
An absolute rush. So yeah, I was ready. I was prepared. It was a fantastic period of my life. And then of course, you get into the unit and it's a whole different lifestyle change. You're waking up. Well, you do it on your own free will now, which is crazy. But you wake up 5 every morning and you do PT and then you have chow at 7 and then you go to work day at 8 and you're off at 5. It's like and except you're in uniform and you're doing military shit. It's just weird. It was just it was a really cool point in my life.
That's awesome. So then you got deployed?
So then, yeah, lots of training in there, and that side of it was not fun. Obviously, it comes with the territory, but months and months of training.
How did you find that physically?
Tougher mentally, but definitely tough physically as well. I mean, they're trying to get you with that training. You're out at a month at a time, right? And you're staying intense, and it's pretty much just like Iraq's gonna be because they want you to feel it. They want you to.
It's pointless having you the sensation of 50%. You need to have felt 110%, and then
if you're playing for the NFL, you're going to go straight from college into your first game, or you're going to fucking practice.
Yeah, okay.
So we practiced our asses off, and that meant months at a time, staying intense, fucking no entertainment, working 12-hour days. It was rough, but it was also obviously when you get to combat, you're like, oh, okay, I get it.
Yeah,
you want to.
I needed this.
Yep. So we ended up deploying. I got to Iraq, again, scared for sure. Anybody who goes to a combat zone is nervous, scared, but excited, man, excited. I'll never forget driving up from Kuwait. We did a middle of the night convoy from Kuwait to Baghdad.
Is this in like big Humvees?
Uh-huh. And a long row of Humvees. Yeah. And I'm in the gunner's turret just looking around, just like, and I didn't know, bro, like there weren't bad areas we were driving through, but I didn't know. So I'm up there like, yeah, come on. G.I. fucking Joe.
Man, so I think definitely for me, like as a Brit, our stereotype of a American infantry guy would be exactly that. Like, yeah, get some.
You're hard on, straight up, yeah.
Yeah, just
You should see us in firefights.
24/7
Literally,
erection.
during middle of a firefight when normal everyday people would be like freaking out. You're like, yeah, get that motherfucker.
Oh my
It's weird,
God.
bro. It's weird, man. It's weird. You don't view death normally when you're over there. You don't see it as something that can actually happen. It's weird. You know it is. You know it's like every day it could happen, but you don't think about it. It's like,
I think that's one of the things from having done a lot of reading on PTSD and stuff like that, which we'll get onto later. One of the things that I think I've realized is that people, especially people that are in the army, until they're out there, they don't appreciate their capacity for malevolence and for aggression. And it's that reflection period where everything slows down afterwards. And you're totally right. Like in the heat of the moment, like look at what happens when someone sees red and they get in a fight, just a normal, like a bar fight. Like, would you have punched this person and like gone outside onto the street and been shouting and screaming and kicking and going hysterical? Would you have done that under normal circumstances? No. But then you put someone into a very specific situation with a very specific set of emotions, and they have this capacity that is far and away from what you'd have thought originally.
Which is funny you say that too, and I know we're going to hit on it later, but that is part of the problem with PTSD, is that you spend this time in combat where you turn all of those emotions off that are necessary to be human, and the only ones you really focus on are aggression and anger, because that's what you need over there. You need to have that, because if you're on,
You would be very, very dead if you had to make
Timid.
every decision. Yeah, if every decision was mediated by compassion, you're not going to last very long, right?
Not at all.
So you've driven up, you've arrived.
We've arrived, and that's actually the funny part of my story, is that 3 weeks in, I got hit by my first IED. So we had been on a bunch of missions and stuff like that up to that point.
What's a mission? So
going out, at that point, it was route clearance. Okay. So what we would do is literally just drive 5 miles freaking hour up and down the roads looking for IEDs.
Okay.
And then if we found something that was a potential IED, we call EOD. EOD comes out, checks it out.
What's the vehicle that you're in?
That was a Humvee.
Okay.
I was always in a Humvee, and then I had 3 missions driving a Bradley, which was cool. Tank. Big ass tank. Yeah.
Nice.
So yeah, we're coming in from one of those missions. Things had been calm to that point.
Had you seen any action by this point?
Nope. Okay. No action yet at all. 3 weeks in. And then we take the road, turn onto the road to go onto the base, and then blew up. It hit my vehicle. It was about a mid-range one, so it didn't breach the vehicle, but the windshield completely shattered. It did breach the side, my TC, who's the passenger side. It came through his window and went into his helmet, like right at the top. He actually kept his helmet and the goggles he had because they are lined with shrapnel, and he didn't get hurt at all.
No way.
But that was...
Where were you positioned?
I was driving.
Okay. And it was on the offside? It was on
the opposite side. Yeah. So, yeah, that was eye-opener. That was, hey, welcome to Iraq, buddy.
How did the heart rate go?
It was insane. It was unlike anything I've ever felt, obviously, until the other IED. But things slowed down. Everything was slow motion. You know how they see it in movies and you hear people say it, but it's the absolute truth. It slows completely down. I saw the windshield crack like in slow motion as it happened. It was weird.
So fascinating.
Things slowed down completely, and then of course it stopped, and you're just like, oh my God, I'm alive.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you're just in, like, a Humvee's just a big car, basically. Like
very armored car, but yeah.
Oh, is it? Okay, so
very, very armored.
Heavily reinforced.
Heavily armored, yeah.
Okay, so, I mean, that's saved your life. Once.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Oh, 5 times over there, yeah.
Oh my
absolutely.
God.
We got hit 5 times. That one was the second worst. Obviously, the one that did me in was the worst, and then the other ones were kind of smaller, homemade explosive types. But
okay.
Yeah, they weren't super destructive.
Like
but
professionally
still,
produced.
You hear next to your vehicle.
That's all you really need.
Yeah.
Okay, so you've had your first one, and
so we had our first one, and that was that. And then we spent another year there, and lots of firefights, lots of again some smaller IEDs. We lost some guys, unfortunately. We ended up losing our first 2 guys April Fool's Day, actually.
No way.
April Fool's Day. It was a couple weeks after I got hit, and they were dismounted and got hit by an IED, and one of them
dismounted as in on foot?
Out of the Humvee.
Okay.
And then so that's another one that was kind of like, it's weird because it's like stages in combat. You know, you got your first introduction to combat, and then you lose your first guy, and you have to process that, and then you have to process having to go back to work the next day and pretend it never happened. You know what I mean? Again, which is where PTSD manifests itself, because you can't properly mourn them.
You haven't had time to do the reflection process, right?
Because if you're thinking about them the next day when you're on mission, you may end up putting yourself or others in danger because of it. So,
well, we discussed this briefly yesterday when we were sat down talking, that the period of reflection for everything is so important, and that's why practicing gratitude and trying to have. A lot of people in the normal world will confuse busyness with success, and that staying busy, constantly just moving in one direction, is somehow a marker for getting things right. But that's not necessarily the way that you should look at it, because this period of reflection allows you to realize what's gone on. It allows you to internalize the situation that you've been through. And then out the other side of it, you have some learning and, okay, I'm now ready for the next one. Yeah. Whereas what you happen when you're deployed is you just have a batch of experience for however many months or however many years. And then you get home and you're like, okay, there is a fucking Amazon truck full of shit that I now need to try and go through. And we all know that memory is one of the least accurate ways of actually recalling something. Like, by the time that you're 2 years deep and you've been through all of this stuff, the first thing that you did, like, can you actually accurately, properly reflect on that? Probably not. Like, it's become confused and conflated and manipulated by all the other things that you've been through. And then by the time you get home, you got to go back through it again. So, okay, so we're now 1 year deep.
Yeah. So, well, not 1 year deep. Again, it's just the whole process. Lost our first two guys. We ended up losing 8 total. And then we got to October 22nd, 2006. We're nearing the end of the tour.
How much longer is left?
2 days. So we have 2 days left. And we're doing what's called a right seat ride, where we're taking the new guys around the area of operations and showing them around, getting them ready to take over. And we were just routine mission, got hit. And next thing you know, I'm waking up and smoke is completely filling the Humvee. There's flesh everywhere, just charred flesh all over the windshield. I had no idea. I didn't feel anything at that time. I'm just like, I woke up. I saw all this.
So did you hear the bang, or was it the...
So no, it was like, well, I heard the bang. So it was like, bang, blacked out, right?
Yeah.
And so I woke up, vehicle's still moving. And I'm just like, I have no idea what really...
Where are you sat?
Driving again.
Okay.
So the vehicle's still moving. I go to try to brake the vehicle, and my right leg's not working. I'm like, what the fuck? And I look down and I see there's like shit hanging out of my thigh. So I know I'm injured there. I still don't feel it though. Use my left foot to brake. That's when my gunner, I look back, I'm like, are you all right? He's seated on the ground and both his legs are gone. One of his legs is sitting right next to me. So that's when the guy in the back, I also noticed we have 5 people in the vehicle total. 3 are passed out. 2 are passed out, and then us 3, me, the gunner, and the guy behind me, were awake. Guy behind me goes, hey, can you please open my door? Please open my door. I can't take the smell anymore. Until you smell human flesh, you just don't understand it, but it's very distinct, and you never forget it.
Okay.
So I lean back, I open the door for him because his arms were all jacked up. And I turned back around, and that's when I felt it. That's when everything kind of came to.
Slowed a little bit.
Yep. Okay. Fuck, help me out here.
The adrenaline?
Yeah, it's the adrenaline, but the shock.
Yep.
The shock kind of started wearing off, and that's when it was just like the most excruciating thing I've ever felt in my life. What had ended up happening was the metal that had gone in my leg was so hot that it was cooking my leg from the inside.
Oh my God.
And
so was that from the IED or is that from the Humvee?
So we're actually come back around to the EFPs, explosively formed projectiles, is what I got hit with. We got hit with 2 of them. Now what these are is there's a canister like that, right? Metal canister, circular. They stuff explosives inside, and on the end they put this copper contact lens shape, piece of copper.
Okay.
It's right on the end. When the explosive goes off, that copper turns molten and shoots.
Yep.
And so it hits the side of the Humvee and eats right through it.
Breaks through.
Eats right through, and once it hits the AC on the inside and hardens, so it's like a cannonball.
Yeah.
So I caught one of the EFPs that broke up into 4 pieces. So one was a baseball size, one was like a quarter size, golf ball size, from that then on. And then I also was full of plastic and the shit from the door that had come in too.
Yeah.
But the stuff that was cooking my leg was the pieces of copper, because that's what it does. It's
what it's designed to do.
Yep.
But you said there was two on either side of the road?
No, on both sides.
Yeah, okay.
So one stayed full and the other one broke up. If the other one didn't break up, I'd be dead. I wouldn't be here today.
Really?
Yes, because it didn't do the damage that it should have. The other one didn't break up and it killed my buddy. It went like right through his torso.
And was that the gunner?
That was my the passenger, the TC.
And that's the side it came through on, right? Okay.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah. So pretty much that's the point where the pain kicked in, and that's the point also where I looked over at him and knew that he wasn't going to make it. Yeah. So I'm fucking yelling. The gunner's yelling. We're like, fuck. I mean, lots of pain going through this vehicle.
Yeah.
Our guys come up from the other vehicles and pull us out. That's about
How big's the convoy?
only 4 vehicles at that point.
Okay.
So they pull us out. We start.
You were. Is it point or taking? Front?
Yes, we were point. Yep, we were the first in line, that's Major David Taylor's the man who died that day, and that was his thing. He wanted to lead. He always said, if we're going to get hit, it's going to be us. And so we're pulled out, and this is kind of the fascinating thing about this, and my story kind of revolves around. I'm a very big believer in God. I have a lot of faith, and these are my God moments. I feel like those are the moments that they should not have happened, and they did. So when we got hit, there was a CIA chopper flying overhead. They saw us get hit. They came back around and they medevaced us out. Had we not had that, it would have taken up to 20, 30, maybe 40 minutes, maybe longer to get a medevac there. My femoral artery was fucking nicked. So one of us easily could have died there that day had that CIA chopper not been overhead.
So the chances of that happening are
slim to
negligible. Might as well have not existed.
Pretty much, yeah.
So you're thinking act of God, right?
Act of God, absolutely, yeah. Because it was so weird, man. I'm telling you, at that point, I shock set in hardcore. I didn't feel the pain anymore. I'm in the chopper, right? My buddy's head's laying in my lap.
So what happens? How do they get you out of the vehicle?
They pretty much carried us.
Really?
Yeah. So you got my guys there, right? So we have 3 other vehicles behind us. We've got a shit ton of guys. So they're helping drag us out. The guys on the chopper are getting us in. So me and my buddy Al, who was a dismount, he was behind Major Taylor.
Yeah.
He was passed out. He had lost his leg above the knee.
Okay.
His head's in my lap. I'm sitting in the back of the chopper. I'm smacking his fucking face trying to wake him up. And this is one of those little tiny choppers. The CIA Delta Force, they use the little baby Hueys. They're super small.
Is there like a flat area?
There's
in the
like
back?
just a seat in the back. So me and Al were in the back.
Okay.
The guy, they're so badass, bro. This is like just like a movie. But the guy, there was 2 of them, CIA guys.
Yeah.
And one of the CIA guys couldn't sit in the back because we were back there. So he's hanging off the side of the motherfucking helicopter, all fucking G.I. Joe'd out, dude. And he's just like, just riding,
just
man.
watching.
Just riding.
Oh my god.
And so I'm seeing this when I'm in shock. I'm just like,
fucking hell.
So then, this is the funniest part. It's only a short flight away, but it felt like forever. I'm looking down over the city of Baghdad as we're flying in absolute shock, and I feel like I can fly. Like I legitimately at that time thought I could fly, and I almost jumped out of the helicopter. And right before I was going to jump out of the helicopter to start flying, I passed out.
Probably just as well.
Yeah, pretty good.
Probably just as well.
So I passed out, and then next thing you know, I woke up at the CASH, which is a little combat support hospital in Baghdad. Okay. Every major base has them. Little support hospital for when shit like this happens.
Okay.
So we get in there, surgeries, and that's pretty much, that period of time, that 5 days from going from Baghdad to Balad to Landstuhl to DC.
Is this you being rated up through better and better equipped medical
so it's that and then also stabilizing you. So it's like you have the initial surgery, right? So you go to the CASH, they clean you out.
Okay.
They do anything they may need to do, like right then and there.
So fix the femoral artery.
So that they hesitated on that because they didn't know it was nicked, but they didn't know what to do yet. They didn't, because obviously you don't want to fuck with a femoral artery in a little combat sport hospital. That's
so we talking like basically a glorified tent in the middle of the desert.
Pretty much.
Okay.
So I was actually very lucky because I didn't cut my femoral artery, but because the shrapnel was so hot, it cauterized it immediately.
Yeah. So the shrapnel both injured and saved you.
The shrapnel both injured and saved my life.
How poetically weird is that?
Crazy.
So much justice in that. That's unbelievable.
So yeah, you go from Baghdad Combat Support Hospital to Balad, which is, again, a big tent hospital, but it's legit hospital in a tent.
Okay.
Huge.
Yeah.
Go from Balad, they stabilize you there. You go to Landstuhl, where they finally settle you.
Are you still? Is this still in Iraq?
Germany.
Germany, right? Okay.
And
so how do you get from Iraq to Germany?
That was just C-130.
Okay.
Yeah. They have hospitals.
Just load you in the back on a stretcher.
Stretcher. Yep.
So what are those journeys like?
Horrible. That whole time in my life was horrible. So because it was surgery every single day. So I didn't get water. I couldn't drink water, obviously, because you have to have surgery. You can't drink water before surgery. You have IVs, so you're getting hydrated.
Yeah.
But it doesn't change the fact that you're dying.
Thirsty.
So I'd be sucking on the little sponges with water and shit.
Yeah.
In and out of surgery. And then the flights. The flights, I don't really remember the ones from Baghdad and Balad, but the one from Germany to DC was...
That's probably 14 hours?
It was about, on a C-130, about 13. And
which
no
is
entertainment.
difficult. 13 hours on a plane is difficult on an A380 with
comfortable
flight service and unlimited gin and all the rest of it.
And you got your movies and all that. We didn't have anything. And then again, you're in a significant amount of pain too. And there's only 3 nurses on the whole plane serving. I'm telling you, you should have. You would be in 2006. I was one of about 150 on that flight. And you're talking about
flight.
This entire flight is stretcher, rows of stretchers, and they're 3 high.
Oh my god!
Swear
so
to God,
tiered.
They're tiered.
So it's like going to a football game.
Yep, that's how many people were injured back then. And so the nurses, they're trying to do their best, but they can't hit everybody when you need pain meds.
Yeah.
They can't get to you in a reasonable amount of time. So it was the worst flight of my life.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
So now, if you need to fly somewhere, do you just feel like this?
Oh, it's fantastic, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Flown to New Zealand a couple times. I'm like, this ain't so bad.
This is absolutely fine. Yeah, exactly. So, what's the medication that the guys are giving you to suppress the pain immediately?
Oh shit! I couldn't even tell you what the ones were back then. I can tell you in DC, I was getting Dilaudid and morphine and the highest shit you can imagine. I imagine back then it was, probably, or those days, something just ridiculous because I was in and out of it, legitimately just in and out of it.
Okay.
I was
semi-conscious,
not living. Yeah.
Okay.
Not so much semi-conscious because I knew what was going on, but I would just go in and out.
Okay.
So we get to DC.
Why DC?
Walter Reed Military Medical Center.
Is that because of where you were deployed from, or is that because that was the best facility for dealing with your injuries?
It's a military medical facility. So they have the Army has 2.
Okay.
It's one's in San Antonio, and then one's in DC.
So I guess
if you're a burn victim, you go to Texas. If you're anything else, you usually go to DC.
Okay, and the kind of opposite ends of the country as well, to a degree, I guess.
Yeah.
Right.
So ended up going to DC, and at that point, I still had my leg. Mm-hmm. So, but it was just trashed, obviously, and the femoral artery was still kind of in limbo. And it was October 31st, 2006. So we're talking 9 days later. 9 days later, it's Halloween, and I hadn't been sleeping, man. Lots and lots of pain, as you can imagine, lots of pain meds, and so just real bad insomnia. Mm-hmm. And then obviously you're starting to realize what's happened to you.
Yeah.
Which again, you actually, you do. As I said, you don't think about death over there, but it's a possibility. Mm-hmm. You really don't think, nor do you really consider it a possibility of losing a limb or getting injured like that. It's just not a thing you really think about. It's there, but it's just you just never really put yourself in that position. So I'm just sitting here wow, what now?
Yeah.
October 31st comes around and it's 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm watching Home Improvement on TV because I can't sleep. And all of a sudden, I have all these machines hooked up to my leg and shit. And one of them pumps the harmful fluid out, right?
Okay.
Starts pumping out blood, real deep burgundy blood. And I'm like, no, that's not good. So I call the nurse. Nurse comes in, oh, no biggie. Balls up some towels and puts it under my leg to put pressure on it. And about 2 seconds later, the bandaging rips off and blood starts fucking spurting, dude. Fucking 3 feet into the air, and I'm just tripping. Yeah. He's tripping now too. He was all calm before, and he just starts freaking out.
There it is again.
There it is. Okay. And that next thing you know, within seconds, my room is full of medical personnel frantically working. Blood's covered my sheets. And
so what's happened?
My femoral blew.
Okay.
Femoral artery blew.
So it had been nicked, and
It was
then
nicked,
the
and I had been in and out of
pressure
surgery, them cleaning shit out, and it was just it
couldn't
finally
take the
went.
pressure anymore.
Couldn't take it
So
anymore.
this, in the same way as a slow puncture in a tire, then at high speeds turns into a
Yep.
pop.
Yep.
Okay.
So I can't explain the feeling, but it's almost like theatrical, right? It's like you're in a fucking movie. Like, is this my life right now? Am I bleeding to death right now? And like, you're getting woozy, and the TV starts like 3D now because you're just so fucked. And I remember begging them not to let me die. I'm just like, don't let me die, don't let me die, don't let me die. That's all I could say. And I call him Mystery Doctor, but he was an African American doctor, very handsome man, and he right here he pushed down on where my femoral meets my aorta so hard that it was sore for about a month after, and he saved my life. Had he not done that from my room to the OR, I would have died. Absolutely died.
So he stemmed the flow.
He stopped the flow until I could get to the OR where they could get a tourniquet on me.
Yep.
And absolutely saved my life. So I get to the OR.
How long was that? The time?
It was actually quite a bit. So I went from, I think the ORs were on the 4th floor and I was on the 6th floor. So he had to take me from my ward all the way to the main elevators, down the elevator to the 4th floor, and then to the OR. And he, the whole time, steady pressure, the whole fucking time, walking along the gurney.
Which is difficult as you're moving as well,
Crazy
right?
hard.
Yeah.
And so I got to the OR, and I remember them freaking out and getting me on the table, and I'm still like woozy, but still with it. And, they're just up here, and they're putting the tourniquet on, and the next thing you know, it's just, and I'm out. And then I wake up, and I'm in the ICU, and there's staples all down this side. I've got a scar running the length of my leg, and there's looks like fucking Frankenstein.
Yep.
And then this side is just new bandages and shit like that. And I'm like, what the fuck happened? Doctor's in there. My parents are in there. The doctor's like, wow. It's like, you gave us a really, really good scare there. They ended up telling me that my femoral artery blew. Obviously, I lost 2/3 of the blood in my body.
2/3 of the blood in your body. So what are we talking now? Like 8 pints, probably?
Yeah. So what was it? 5.5 liters in the human body. So, in a 180-pound human body is what.
Okay. Yeah.
So I don't know. A lot of blood.
What's the level at which you die?
I don't know. But all I know
is
is
around about 2/3.
Yeah. So what they did immediately was
people faint after they give a pint
Yeah.
of blood, which is half of a liter.
So if that had happened and I'd been Baghdad, I would have been dead. Yeah. So thank God I was in the hospital. They could get blood up. I mean, they started pumping blood through me right then and there.
Yeah.
Once I got to the OR. So anyway, woke up and said, gave us quite a scare there. We ended up having to take the vein out of your left leg and put it in your right to create a new femoral artery.
So your left leg's
vein is in my right
is
leg.
your right leg's femoral artery.
And they pretty much just flip it around. So they take it out of here, flip it, and turn it into an artery.
No way.
I swear to God, man. It's crazy.
Medicine's
It's fascinating.
incredible.
So that's another beautiful thing about it is I lost 6 inches of my femur, right? So when it went in right here, blew out this side, I lost about that much of my femur.
Yep.
They had to take it out. There's just little pieces left. They grew my femur back using bone grafts and stuff. I had 4 different bone grafts, and they grew all of that back. And it looks fucking crazy and weird and wicked, but it's a bone. I run on it and all that. It's like, it just blows my mind what they can do.
For nothing else, like I've given blood once, but never that much. But, hearing a situation like that where someone's life gets saved by the fact that they need probably circa 5, 8, 10 pints of blood, whatever it might be. Like, if people aren't donating blood, you're dead.
And I'm one person, and I got blood more times than I can even count. Because most surgeries, I've had 37 surgeries, and most of those surgeries you come out of, if you bleed a lot, you need blood. Dude, I got blood probably about a quarter of those surgeries, and then obviously with the femoral artery, I got blood. I mean, those
Big
first
sign.
2 days, yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, I woke up and my life was changed, man. I mean, I was so fearful after that because I was like, what if I was sleeping when that blew? You know what I mean? What if it blows again?
Yeah.
What the fuck am I going to do? So I didn't sleep. If I thought I couldn't sleep before that, I didn't sleep at all after. Not at all.
Wow.
And so that ended up, the femoral artery blowing is why I lost my lower limb.
Okay.
I initially was, they thought I was going to lose my leg up here because of where I got hit. I didn't have damage to my lower limb.
Okay.
But because of the femoral artery, it was about a 14-hour surgery. And they had the tourniquet on for so long that when they took the tourniquet off to rush the blood back down the new vein, it's called compartment syndrome.
I know what it is.
Yeah. So I got that real bad, and they had to do fasciotomies on both sides.
Can you briefly explain what compartment syndrome is for people who don't know?
So pretty much the doctors explained to me in layman's term as a hot dog that's in the microwave too long. So it's too much pressure because of the blood flow. It hadn't been flowing for a long time. Then all of a sudden that pressure, it like blows the freaking leg up, and you have to slit it to relieve that pressure. What happened with mine was that led to necrosis of my muscle in my lower limb because of the pressure.
And you only need 13 hours without blood flow for that to occur.
Yeah.
So
I mean, less than that too.
Yeah. So it could have, the tolerance that you'd have needed probably maybe 6 hours, 8 hours, 10 hours or whatever, and you could have had the same.
Yeah. So they ended up having to take a big flap of my muscle out due to necrosis, and that flap of muscle was what was used to lift my foot up.
Yep.
So after that, obviously it took about a year to walk again and all that shit, but by the time I had come to that point, fast forward 2 years, my leg was worthless, man. Like my thigh was getting good and all that, and I was getting stronger, but my lower leg, I drug it around with me.
There's no dorsiflexion, right?
No dorsiflexion.
So you can't lift the toes off the ground.
No.
The reverse of a calf raise.
Yep.
Could you do calf raises?
Yes. No. Yeah, calf raises. Yes.
So you could go up on your toes?
I could go up on my toes.
Go up on your heel?
Yep.
Okay.
And so I had surgery to try to fix that. Didn't work.
So hang on, you've had the artery and the vein switch over. The next year or 2 years is that heavy rehab?
Rehab.
Rehab.
Huge rehab. So I dislocated my knee in the incident too. So a good 6 months was just working that knee back out.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So my knee, and they never fixed it. So it just healed itself down.
Yeah.
It's all scar tissue and stuff. So I had this little Vietnamese physical therapist, and she used to just get up there and crank it, man. And it was horrible.
Wow.
But yeah, so that was a good 6 months just to get the knee.
For me watching my only experience of seeing Army rehab is like what you'll have seen on Black Hawk Down and like sort of super American movies. But is it like that? Is it the parallettes, like with the hands and the Zimmer frame, and the person helping you walk? The sweating and the shaking.
Absolutely. And then you have to work hard in there. If you don't work hard in there, you see the drastic difference in people when they don't do what they need to do in rehab. But if you're working hard in there, you're killing yourself. I mean, it sucks. It really, really sucks. But did that for 2 years. Had a tendon transfer to try to get my dorsiflexion back, and it didn't really work. And also I was getting hammer toe. So because I didn't have the ability to raise my foot up or my toes were slowly but surely going like this.
Yep.
And the older I got, the more they would do that, and it was just
down.
Extremely painful.
Yep.
A lot of pain in my ankle as well. A lot of pain in my foot arch.
Okay.
So it got to the point where I said, I can't fucking do this. I'm 22 years old. Like, I'm young. I'm in physical therapy just dying. And I'm looking at these guys with prosthetics just doing this crazy shit. And I'm like...
How many hours a week are you doing rehab for that year or 2 years?
About 4 hours a week.
Okay.
I'm sorry, 4 hours a day, 5 days a week.
4 hours a day, 5 days a week.
Yeah.
So it's a full-time job just trying to get your body back to work.
Because you have stretching for 30 minutes, and you have weight training for an hour. And then
so it's like you're being a professional athlete to just become a human again.
Pretty much, yeah. Yeah, which is what it takes. I mean, you have to.
That's mind-blowing.
So, it was really... I'm thankful, so thankful to have been in the rehab facility I was in with other combat wounded veterans, because I got to see those young guys with their prosthetics doing this crazy shit.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that should be me. Like, I shouldn't be fucking... I'm 20...
What crazy shit were they doing?
With box jumps and running and, just things I would have never ran again. I would have... It just the things that I wanted to do as a 22-year-old athlete.
Yeah.
And so I went in and I said, is there anything we can do? And they mentioned elective amputation. And I said, they said, you got to think about it. If you want to do it, we're willing to do it. We've done it before, and we just can't promise that it'll work out. So it took me about a week.
I was going to say, because that decision to lose a limb.
Yeah. It's like I actually read up a shit ton online, obviously, in that week.
During the period? In
that week, yeah. And one of them likened it to losing a family member. And it really much is, because it's a part of you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And but after that week, when I made my decision, it was done. You know,
Okay.
I didn't. And then you have to wait 6 months. They have to make sure that you're mentally sound, right? You're
So
not
that
just
you
like,
haven't
I'm
made
gonna
an
hack
impulse
off
decision.
a limb. Yeah,
like I'm gonna dye my hair.
Yeah.
And I'll get
maybe lose a limb,
yeah,
whatever.
Exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, I went through the 6 months, which is good for me too, because I shouldn't
You need to do the
process it.
Yeah.
6 months, bro. I'm like, let's get this bitch off, man.
Was it during that period? Was it getting worse?
Yeah, absolutely. And I was feeling the limitations of my body. So 2 years of rehab, right? And I'm like, every other part of my body, my thighs getting stronger, my bones getting stronger, like the veins
Femur's
good
back.
now. The femur's back. Like everything was coming together but that.
Yeah.
And so I was at the
let's
ceiling.
get this
I had
motherfucker off.
let's get that motherfucker off. And my dad to this day, it's the only surgery I came out of with a smile on my face, man. It's the only one. I came out and I'm just like, I knew it was new life. It was like, this is my opportunity. I had reached my max here,
Yep.
and now I knew that
The ceilings just got raised.
fucking tenfold. And oh yeah, so the funny thing about that is I have to throw this out there. It's some of my favorite pictures, but we actually had a going away party for my foot the night before. And all my buddies signed my foot. My dad was there, he signed my foot, my sister was there. And they put a little coupon cut line on there. Don't cut above this line. I went in for the surgery. They're like, oh my God.
Yeah. Who's this guy?
Yeah. So, yeah, got it
So
hacked
how
off.
did they do it?
I mean, they pretty much, so I'll go through, because mine is different. The beautiful part about having your leg and doing an elective amputation is they have a lot of shit to work with.
They've got they can choose exactly where.
Exactly how they want to do it and what they want to use.
So have the wherever it is that the cut has been made, is that the optimal?
Optimal.
Okay.
Absolutely, yeah. Optimal for, in terms of legs usage.
Okay. So what's the specific kind of amputation that it was? Is there a
Just BK. It's called baloney amputation.
Okay.
Yeah, there's no like specific. They're all the same.
Yep.
Where the fuck was I? Oh, so they cut it, but they cut it right to the back of the muscle, right? And then they take it off. So that big muscle flap's right here, right?
Yep.
Then they take a little piece of your tibia and they sew it into your...
Well, I guess you've got shitloads of spare
shit ton of
bone
spare
and
parts. That's what I'm
flesh
saying.
and-
It's like Frankenstein shit.
Yeah.
So they take a
I
little
want another
piece...
ear. I really always wanted a six
Can we
finger.
throw a rib on my forehead maybe to see how it looks? So they take a little piece of tibia and they connect your tibia and fibula at the bottom to make a good little support.
Yeah, because I
It's
guess
called
there's
a
a lot,
girdle.
there's a lot of pressure that's going to now be going
So
through
if it's
the
just
bottom.
and if it's only two bones sticking straight down, you can imagine that it may end up hurting. So they put the girdle on the end to act as kind of like a nice little.
Okay.
And then they bring that flap up.
Yep.
And sew it.
Okay.
Pretty much it. And so got out and then it's back to rehab. You know, another year of rehab. It took me about a year to learn how to walk right and about another year to run right. And then by
So
that,
it's 4 years of rehab.
4
now,
years of
but
total rehab. 2 years for the earlier, 2 years
6
for
months
the,
to make the decision.
Yep.
Another 2 years off the back of it.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so then I got done with that, and I mean, it was the best fucking decision I ever could have made. I mean, absolutely. The things I've done since then with my leg not only blow my mind, but it's just... It proves to me that I made the right decision. I'm happy with that. You know, I've never regretted it, not once. And to be able to look back now and be like, man, look at all the things I've done that I never could have done.
It sounds so crazy. It's such a reversely logical decision for a normal person hearing that, to go, I chose to lose a limb and it's the best decision I could have made.
Yeah.
Like for most people, that would be it's heart sinking, one of the scariest things that you could do. And yet for you, it's what's giving you life.
But see, I had to live through 2 years of the
You knew what it's like on the other side of
and
the
the other
fence.
side was not fucking fun.
Okay.
And
so what's it like learning to walk?
It's not much, honestly, it's not much different. You don't, I mean, you're learning to walk again as an adult, so it's kind of different. But the feeling wise, it's kind of one foot in front of the other, you know what I mean? But it takes a lot, man, a lot. And a lot of that has to do with not the nub or the lower limb, but the rest of the body, because it all has to adapt.
Yeah.
You don't realize how much you use your foot and your
balancing.
calf
Yeah.
for pushing off for everything.
So do you feel like your core is like just
Oh,
rock
yeah.
solid in
Yeah, rock
comparison
solid.
now?
Yeah, rock
Because you'll have to balance through your midline as opposed to using dorsiflexion to restabilize, right? So you stabilize your whole lower leg mostly through your core, as opposed to with your toes and with your ankle. So yeah, that must have been a real change of biomechanics for you to start to relearn that.
And it does. It takes a long time. I actually had real bad foot drop. Or, I'm sorry, real bad hip drop when I was walking after I got amputated.
Okay.
Because you require a lot more, as you said, hip and core movement and activity than normal.
So were you...
So it's real bad hit, yeah.
Yep.
So like that. So I did this for 6 months, man. An hour every single day. She had me walk toward a mirror, walk back, walk toward a mirror,
so that you
walk
could
back,
see
so that I
whether
could
you were...
see what I was doing. And
so talk me through the rehabilitation. Are we back on 4 hours a day?
yes,
5 days a week?
absolutely. So and then once you get your leg, but that's the cool part is, so like I told you, I was kind of like, I had reached my point about a year into my first little stent.
Yep.
And I was just kind of going through the motions after that. But with the leg, it's every day better, more.
Do you feel like you're getting after it?
By the time I ended my rehab there and medically retired, dude, I was the guy in there that other people were looking at like, oh God, I can do that one day. Which to me was really fucking cool.
That's amazing.
I was the one doing box jumps in there. I was the one doing sprints. It's
fantastic.
It's like full
It's a
circle.
circle of life. Right?
Yeah. So it was really fucking cool. I was in a really good place then, man. Really good place. And then I medically retired, and I'm like, man, the whole world's out. It was like that new feeling again and all that. And then, yeah, the world shit all over me. But it's civilian life, man. It's funny how that shit works. You're just like...
So talk me through reintegration.
So that's, like I said, there's this excitement, right? Like, I'm going to go to college. I'm going to be a college kid, and I'm going to do all this stuff.
Yeah.
You don't fucking realize how much support you have at that military medical community. You don't realize how much you rely on there, from the doctors to the rehabs to the friends you've made there to the other combat wounded veterans who understand what you're going through without even having to say a word, to the nonprofits that are there to help you. You have literally an army of people there to support you, and you don't realize what it does for you until you leave it.
Yep.
And so I ended up going to college in West Virginia because I wanted just a fresh start. You know, I wanted something new. Didn't know anybody there, and it ended up being my downfall at that time because I got there and there was, I didn't know who I was, man. I didn't know who the fuck I was because my life, 4 years of it was rehab. That was my life. It's getting better.
At 22, most people don't know who they are.
Yeah.
Let alone someone who's been in this strangely insulated, isolated, very unique, very difficult to compare with anyone else's experience situation.
Yeah.
And then you come out and then you got to try and reintegrate.
Yeah. Then you have to imagine this too, you have a purpose. Military, you have a purpose. Deployed, you have a purpose. Even injury, you have a purpose. I'm getting better.
Yeah.
When you lose all of those purposes and you're on to the next one, that's when you're like, oh fuck, what do I do now?
I've got to go to this lecture. I've got to
and I'll tell you what, I just didn't know who I was. I didn't know where I was going. I didn't know who I was going to become.
So how old are we now?
At that point, what was I? I got hit at 21, actually 2 weeks before my 21st birthday, and 4 years, so about 25, mid-20s.
Yep.
Yeah, so I had planned on doing 20 years in the military, so I had no idea, dude. I had no idea what I wanted to do, who I was going to be.
Got to try and find a life now.
Started going to school for finance, and I ended up rushing a fraternity because I spent 2 weeks there so unhappy, so miserably unhappy and alone, and dealing with this new onset PTSD that I was either about to go home or just like, I didn't know. I was out of options. And so I ended up rushing a fraternity, which was both good and bad. Obviously, I made friends and it gave me that social aspect, but it's not a good environment for a veteran dealing with PTSD to be around alcohol and drugs and partying nonstop.
Okay.
And so my life kind of unraveled at that point a little bit. And I got to a point, I had spent a year there and I said, I gotta get out of here. I'm regressing. I'm not becoming a better human being.
Yeah.
And so I decided to move to Florida. And again, one of the worst years of my life, the first year there, just because I knew no one.
What were you doing there?
In Florida?
Yep.
I started school back down there too.
Oh, okay.
But then I also, at that time, I was traveling about 2 to 3 weekends a month for this nonprofit. Mm-hmm. It's a group of combat amputees who play softball.
Okay.
So that was really big for me, and that's actually the foundation of VETSports, right?
Okay.
So I was on that team, played ball for a year, really enjoyed it, gave me some purpose, and I was with those guys, which meant a lot. But the guy that led it was a rat fuck. And he stole money from the organization, shit like that. Okay. And he was using the guys. So I got out of that, and how VETSports started from that was because I was like, I want to do this the right way. So yeah, the first year in Florida, I was traveling with that team and going to school, but knew no one, and no resources in the community. There was just nothing. And
support structure's just not there.
And I think for me, the main thing I needed was just veterans, man, like other military people, just people that could understand me. And so VETSports was started in 2012. That was my second year in Florida.
Okay.
I lucked out, had a mutual friend of another combat wounded veteran, and had a combat wounded buddy of mine, and all three of us had really bad transitions, and realized that, while the military medical center community has all this support, once you get to the normal civilian community, there's none.
Is it a little bit black and white?
Absolutely. It's fucking night and day. It's
as opposed
insane.
to this gentle ramp that sort of throws you back in. So if you can try and define what PTSD feels like, can you try and define it? Can you verbalize it?
The only thing I can say, I did this pretty extensive therapy called art therapy. Art therapy. So it's not art. It's accelerated resolution therapy or something.
Okay.
It's pretty much based on eye movement. So a lot of it is internal. You think about a lot of stuff and you follow their hand with your eyes because it allows you to kind of process the thoughts better. Brilliant brilliant therapy. And what they said was, when we go through traumatic events, we don't even mean to do this, but every event thereafter runs through this filter, a filter of that event. So you view and experience things through that filter because it's there. It's this block in your head. And so you can't enjoy things like normal. You don't feel compassion and the normal feelings that other people have. You're just kind of void of it all because everything is being viewed through those filters. And that therapy, their whole thing is they break down those filters.
Try to remove the lens.
So that you can view everything with a fresh perspective.
Okay.
But it's tough. So PTSD is just, it's all encompassing, man. It's always there. And it's just
is it like if someone's had anxiety, does it feel like anxiety?
A lot. So that's the thing about PTSD too, is it manifests itself differently for everybody. Some people have nightmares. I have nightmares all the time too. That's part of PTSD. Okay. Some people can't do crowds. I'm all right with crowds. It makes me uncomfortable. I was worse back in the day. You do some exposure therapy and you get over it. But there's a lot of different. That's why it's hard to explain exactly what it is.
That's such a ruthless affliction, that the fact that it's almost bringing back your first weaknesses. So there's a really interesting story from King Arthur, the Knight to the Round Table, and they've got to go off, got to look for the dragon, right? They've got to go slay the dragon, and each of the knights has to enter the forest at the point which looks darkest to him. So each of them, they don't go in on one path.
Yeah.
Each of them has to walk around the forest until they find the point at which looks darkest to him. And that's what that feels like to me. That feels like someone who it brings up, like it's capable of manifesting your weakness. Like it's the kryptonite, but your kryptonite.
Absolutely.
But it's not everyone else's. So it's
absolutely.
I mean,
that's a brilliant way to put it. Actually, I love that because it's true. So some of my flaws, my whole life has been self-hatred and anxiety, and the PTSD takes both of those and fucking ramps them up, jacks them up
turns
to
it
11.
up to 11. Yeah.
And so I alcoholism, drugs. I mean, I was in it all. I just I had to cope somehow. I had to just erase it and numb the feelings. A lot of that goes back to what we were talking about earlier, where you have to turn these emotions off for so freaking long and utilize only the really bad ones that you really shouldn't. That when you come back, it's not a switch. You can't just switch them back on. So I had to learn over years and years.
Did you ever find yourself like feeling aggressive again?
Oh yeah, dude. West Virginia was big on this, but my fighting during my early 20s, like mid to like even later 20s, was ridiculous.
Really?
Dude.
Just
I was in bar fights.
Didn't have that red filter at all. Okay.
Nope.
Yeah.
I would get drunk, fight all the time.
Just flip out.
And so the art therapy, as I was saying, I did that about 4 years ago, and it changed me. It allowed me to feel those feelings again. It really brought all the emotions to the forefront.
So you're following the hand, and are you being talked through?
You're being talked through. You're kind of prompted, but a lot of it is thought prompts. So I actually, in one of my books, 30 Days, I discuss it a lot because it did mean a lot to me and I wanted people to know about it. But so if anyone's interested. But yeah, it's very much you're in your own head and you're thinking about it. And one of the things they do at the end of every one is, so my childhood stuff was a very big basis of that. And I'd say it really helped me a lot with my childhood stuff, about 10 times more than my military stuff. My military stuff has very much been like this years long battle.
Yeah.
And the child stuff too, but that, it was like life-changing.
So do you think that mentally you're in a better position now, having gone through the art therapy and started to move through the PTSD, with dealing with what happened before you were deployed as well?
So I think the art therapy getting me through that childhood shit allowed me to then go and battle the PTSD. I was stuck.
So was it kind of like you had to I've got to get through the first 16 years of life and deal with that stuff before I can actually... So you've got PTSD on PTSD,
I do,
basically.
yeah.
You got PTSD,
at the end of the day, that's what it is.
PTSD squared.
Yeah. Pretty much. And it's a really tricky thing to fucking figure out.
Where do we start?
Where do you fucking start? So I ended up, luckily, I was getting long ass way there. The end of every art therapy session, you envision yourself as a child. You know, if you have childhood issues.
Yep.
And you're holding your child, you, by the hand, and you're walking him across the bridge. The negativity is on this side, the positivity is on this side. And you walk him across this bridge, and you see a fire, a big bonfire. And you stand next to that bonfire, and you start throwing all that negative shit in, right? And then you look down at your younger self, and they actually ask you, what would you tell your younger you? And I think I said, believe in yourself. Don't let other people dictate how you feel. And she said, okay, good. Say that to yourself in your head, and then let younger you start throwing stuff in the fire too. And it sounds fucking weird and hokey, man. And the first time I did, I felt weird, but I gotta fucking tell you, dude, just existing in that, it changed me, man. It changed me. It was a very powerful thing. And I think obviously it had to do with the whole session, the session as a whole, and then ending it with that. But yeah, there was something significant about that.
Did you find it, so for some of the listeners will be practicing meditation at the moment, and some of the practices that you go through on that can be difficult in the same way that picking up a heavy weight's difficult, but it's mental, right? And did you find it testing to be able to start visualizing that sort of stuff? Because it's a very specific way of thinking, right?
Absolutely.
It's an incredibly unique skill, in the same way as being able to do a snatch is a very specific physical skill. You're being asked to do something which is very, very fine and discreet mentally. Yeah. Did you have to cultivate it over time? Did you have
certainly, but the thing about art therapy too is that it's very quick. It's accelerated resolution therapy, called that for a reason. It works quickly. Wow. So yeah, the first few sessions, you're like, okay,
do you feel a bit
it takes
silly?
some time, but you also, in order for that to work, you have to be open to it. You have to. If you go in there thinking, oh, this is fucking hokey bullshit, it's not going to work. Yeah. So even though in my head I'm like, okay, whatever. And when I went in there, I said every time, you're going to fucking do this, and you're going to be open-minded, and you're going to...
I mean, look at, to go back to the decision to lose the limb. Yeah. Like, you had done your research, you'd read through, and then you go, I'm going to go for this. Like, this is all or nothing.
Yeah.
And, 100% commitment, I think, there must be a lot of people who have maybe gone to do art therapy and have had that doubt in the back of their mind, and then they haven't elicited that same result that you did.
Yeah, absolutely. Which is unfortunate, because it was fantastic. It was incredible.
So is that the basis of your recovery?
Yeah, because like I said, I think it knocked out that childhood PTSD. You know, it allowed me to move past that.
Okay. And then did you find, kind of like eating layers of a cake, did you find different sensations and different tastes as you moved through the layers?
So it's like a floodgates had been opened, right? Okay. So where I never felt love or happiness or joy or anything like that in the years prior, I felt them like on an infinite level afterward. It was weird. So like,
was it overwhelming?
Yes, but in a kind of a beautiful way, because I was feeling again. And so, like, one of the things is, it's so ridiculous, but, like, I'll watch a YouTube episode of The Voice or something, and you'll have somebody who's, like, maybe they're meek, or they had some terrible childhood and they go in there and fucking just kill it.
Yeah.
I cry on
You
that
start
shit
weeping,
now.
yeah.
I weep like a fucking baby. That would have never happened back in the day, ever.
Yeah.
And that was one of the big things. I just feel more.
You can find meaning in things.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so, yeah, it was huge. It was significant.
So you've gone through the art therapy. What's next after that?
Well, so the art therapy and VETSports started about the same time. So I also found my purpose again at that point.
So tell me about VETSports. It's what I want to get onto.
So VETSports, again, the shit transition, right? You know, and then that bad organization. I was like, you know, I know that this works, bringing veterans together.
Mm-hmm.
I know this works, and having some sort of active activity.
Yep.
But what if we did it the right way? Not only that, what if we provided it within the communities where people are returning to? I mean, they're transitioning to these communities. How cool would it be to have a little club there? So, like I said, the three of us came up with the idea of having the community-based clubs that revolve around sports, athletic events, community involvement. We help other charities as well through donating our time, and then get-togethers, events, just bringing them together, social events. And so we started VETSports. Our first club was in DC, and then I started one down in Tampa, which is funny. You know, like I didn't have any friends there at that time, right?
Yeah.
I made all my friends in Florida from VETSports. So, that was growing and really becoming something. And so I had that new purpose. You know, I was still battling, absolutely. I still battle to this day. That shit never goes away. But it's just progress.
Yeah.
It's progress. Even little progress is huge when you go through that kind of life. And
so what's the process of starting a sporting organization for veterans? Like, how do you find them?
Well, lots of recruiting, a lot of recruiting methods, VA, student veteran organizations. I had to learn all this. That was kind of the funny thing. You know, it was a lot of pressure, and it definitely in those early years, because I have a lot of self-hatred and self-doubt, stuff like that. It was tough because
It's a big old task, right?
Yeah, because you really, can I do this? Is it worthy? Is it worth it?
Should it be me? Should it be someone else? Yeah.
So yeah, you end up. I had to learn it all, but we did it. I mean, we recruited through colleges and VAs and other nonprofits, and it's been cool, man.
What are the sports that you guys?
Anything. So we really at the end of the day, we want to know what they want to do. Yep. So if you have a club, say we have a club in East Texas, and you want to do some skeet shooting, then they do skeet shooting. Yep. Whereas in California, if your crew wants to do surfing, then we do surfing. You know, it's all dependent on the area and what the need is.
Okay.
But we like to keep it mixed. You know, we do softballs, kickball, skeet shooting.
There it is again.
Everything. We do everything. Yeah. We definitely focus more on team sports aspect of it. There's a lot of nonprofits out there that are helping and doing good stuff. We believe in the team sports aspect of it because it kind of gives you that new goal. Yeah, it brings you together. That allows you to work together again. Part of a team is big military thing, obviously, so it gives you that feeling again.
Does it feel a little bit like a brotherhood again?
It is a brotherhood, absolutely. Any guy in VETSports will tell you that VETSports is a brotherhood. I hate saying brotherhood because it's a sisterhood as well, but it's a family. Yes. It is an absolute family, and that's what we wanted it to be. We didn't start out wanting to be a big, an organization where you can't reach out to the founder and say, "Hey, tell me about VETSports."
Yeah. So, how many locations are you in?
So shit, I'm like, I took a step back this year, right? So like all this shit's happening now. It's like I've sent my kid off to college, right?
Yeah.
I did all the things I needed to do.
Does it feel like it's its own monster now?
It is. No, I'm not. Yeah, I'm like...
It runs, it's its own animal.
Yeah, it does its own thing. Randy Tharp is our president, and he's he's another combat wounded veteran who co-founded it with me, and an incredible human being. And he is absolutely... the reason VETSports is where it is today. Mm-hmm. I've done my part, and I've done everything that I can to bring it to where it is. But Randy, especially with this new growth, it goes to him. I mean, we're in a lot of places. So just to try to name them all: Michigan, Killeen, Texas, Jacksonville, the Panhandle, Tampa. We just did one in Norfolk, Fort. Hold on. Can't even fucking remember it. 2 up in Michigan, DC, Westchester, New York. They're everywhere, man.
So
New Mexico.
You're talking hundreds of people.
Yeah. Oh, thousands.
Thousands of veterans.
Yeah. It blows my mind to see.
Do you have any idea how many people have been from start to finish have been a member of VETSports? Like, if you were to put
I don't have a specific number, but thousands. Absolutely thousands. Yeah.
And the effect that it's had on reintegration and all the rest of it is probably going to be pretty profound.
I think so, yeah. I mean, I think the proof is in the pudding for sure, but from what I've seen, Yeah, I mean, it's been beautiful, man. We've seen a lot of people who were in the exact state I was in, who just come out slowly but surely. It's funny, it's a process. One of my best friends now is actually one of these guys who just showed up one day, and it's like this timid, like he watches first, you know, doesn't really talk to anybody, and just checks it out. And then the next week they come and maybe they talk to a few people, and the next week they're like, "Hey, can I get a uniform?" You know, it's like they build to this point, and then like my best friend now, I see it in him, the change, and I don't know where some of those guys would be now if it weren't for it, which is a good feeling to have.
It must be incredibly empowering.
Yeah.
You know, to take your experience and then also your passion, which was sports, and somehow create something that's meaning and puts people on a different trajectory. And
yeah. At the end of the day, that's our ultimate goal.
Have you guys still got it's kind of like the baseball logo, but it's with the artificial like sports leg? Is that, do you know, like the silhouette?
Oh, yeah.
Is that still your emblem?
That's mine,
I'll make sure it's in the show notes if anyone who's just listening needs to check this out, because it is so fucking cool.
Yeah, I love that thing.
It's so cool. Who is that?
That's me.
Is that you?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're like halfway through the swing of the baseball bat, but you can see the
back leg is a prosthetic. Yeah,
it's cool. The kangaroo kind of arched foot, man. It's just sick. I think when I first ever saw that, I was like, I love it. I just love the branding. I thought it was really, really good. So VETSports now is purely US based. Are you aware of any organizations which are similar elsewhere in the world?
We aren't, no. And international, obviously, I have taken a step back, so I'm not going to make these decisions so much anymore. I'll probably put them out there and see what. But I would love to go international at one point, like a UK VETSports club for me to have. They fought beside us, man. Yeah. They fought. You guys fought beside us. Canada, Italy. There's so many people that I saw there that contributed, and a lot of them don't get the same benefits that we do. A lot of them don't get the same treatment.
I was going to say, so if you were to look at, you've said that reintegrating into normal society, there's maybe some work to be done there, but you sung the praises of the immediate reintegration and of the care. What are your impressions of that in other countries? Do you think America leads the way with that?
Absolutely.
By a really big margin?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. I know some UK guys who lost limbs overseas who are not taken care of in the way they should be. Germany is terrible.
Really?
Well, unfortunately, due to their past, they view their military with distaste, disgust. And when they get injured, they're left.
Man, that's terrible.
Defenseless, pretty much.
That's terrible.
So yeah, I mean, international for me, obviously, we have a long way to go. We're a very small organization, completely grassroots. But yeah, I mean, 20 years from now, if there's VETSports UK, VETSports Canada, I'd be the happiest motherfucker on earth.
I bet.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. So you found some meaning with that, and then you started writing.
So that's another side of the fucking story, man. And it's so weird. Hold on, real quick. Can you tell him that? What time is it now?
It's 5 to 1.
Yeah, can you tell him? I mean, it's probably going to be another 20.
I sent Rob down to meet him.
Okay. Ask again. Oh, yeah. So
the writing. Tell me about the writing.
So here's the thing. I've always been a writer. I've always loved it. I've always loved reading.
Which is surprising, you know, like army guy, you know, like hyper masculine, all that stuff. But then you've got this other side.
See, but I grew up
weirdly
writing.
Creative side.
I know I grew up writing lyrics, dude. 5th grade, 4th grade, I was writing lyrics and I was playing music and shit. You know, horrible music, but like that. I was always the creative type. I'd always felt empowered by utilizing the written word to feel something.
Yeah.
And I've always been a reader. R.L. Stein, Stephen King. I grew up on that shit, and I would devour those books. Yeah. And so I always loved it. I didn't write when I was in the military. I lost my passion for writing when I was in the military and when I was healing up.
Yeah.
And I had to kind of discover that passion again. So I'm taking finance in school. Yeah. PTSD's fucking shit. Yeah. I'm down in Florida, first year in Florida this time.
Yeah.
PTSD's rough. I'm miserable, man, and I hate my classes. I'm going to classes every day, and I hate it.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
it's not stimulating you intellectually.
So I'm like, bro, what are you doing? You're medically retired. You have an organization that you founded and you care about that's giving you purpose. Why are you not chasing it? Why are you not doing what makes you happy?
Yeah.
And so I switched my major right then and there to creative writing.
Okay.
And just with the hopes that someday I'd maybe get an opportunity. At that time, I thought maybe I'd try to do some like script writing contests, screenplay contests, and see where it took me. Mm-hmm. A year into my creative writing, after I'd switched it, I got reached out to by Michael Stokes. Michael Stokes is a pretty renowned photographer who one of his campaigns or one of his passion projects was shooting combat wounded amputees, but male form, so very like masculine, sexy photos, but with prosthetics in them.
Yeah.
It was kind of to take away from the process. They're beautiful photos, and when I first saw, two guys did it before I did, and I saw those about a year before Michael reached out to me, and I was just like, just moved.
Fuck, that's cool.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, I'd love to do that, but never thought I could.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, fast forward a year, and I go into my Facebook Messenger, and it says Michael Stokes, and I'm like,
shit.
I opened the message, man, and he invited me to come shoot, and I was just dancing around the hotel room. Yeah, I said, fuck
you
yeah.
You prepped for quite a while for that, right?
So he hit me up, I think it was July, and I shot in December. And we were supposed to, I think I was supposed to shoot in October. This is the first and only time in my life where I was like, I ate everything I was supposed to. I trained my ass off.
Yeah.
And I look fucking fantastic.
The photos are unbelievable. They'll be in the show notes.
But yeah, it was 5 months of that, and I hated everything about my life. I fucking hated it.
Well, man, do you know what it is? It doesn't matter whether you've been to war or not. No one likes dieting.
No.
Like, it doesn't matter who you are. No one wants to be on a
Terrible.
diet.
So, so I ended up doing that shoot, and then he's real big in the romance community. A lot of fans in that, so I started getting traction in the romance community. And had like you were talking about it last night, about like, you had no idea this world existed. I just got thrown into it, man.
You opened Pandora's box, man, with the romance.
But it was beautiful. It's like you said
really
yesterday, it's a fantastic community that not a lot of people know about. Yeah. So I
tumbled down the rabbit hole.
Tumbled down that rabbit hole, got my first couple covers, and then I had a website at that time, and I had some of my short stories on there, and an author who had published 2 books read my short stories, really liked them, and had a military romance storyline that she didn't think she could do justice to.
Okay.
Reached out to me, asked me if I'd like to co-write it with her.
How daunting was that?
Fucking terribly daunting.
Is that up there with like, forget VETSports, forget having to lose a leg, like, I gotta write a book.
Absolutely.
Like, fuck, this is scary.
Toughest mental task I've ever done in my life. Even tougher than war. Yes, it was definitely afraid. And I will say this, it's if I didn't have a co-writer or co-author that kind of walked me through, I don't know how long it would have been before I tried even to write a book. Even being in the romance community as a model, I don't know how long it would have taken me because it's daunting.
I don't think there's very many guys that make that transition, right? It must be difficult to be both a cover model and an author.
Well, unfortunately, a lot of guys have been, but it's
successful.
Well, no. For me, I was a writer before I was a model, man. Yeah. I am a writer through and fucking through.
I just happen to model as well.
I just happen to model as well, whereas there are some that go from cover model to writer for money's sake because they see that they can make money
on this side.
And that disgusts me. And so I actually, for years, like pretty much my whole career until about a year ago, I had to battle that kind of that label. I was labeled the model turned writer, and I'm like, guys, I was going to school for writing before I ever took a photo.
Stood in front of the camera.
And so, I finally now I'm at the point where I think people see me or see my name or hear about me, and it's writer. It's not. It's writer /model, not model/writer.
Yeah,
which is cool.
That's an important distinction, I guess. When you want your work to be viewed with artistic integrity, you need to make sure that that's the way that it's done. So, how many books have you published now?
So I've got 2 co-written books out. I'm working on my 3rd co-written one now, and then I've got 4 solo books.
Wow! And then you got your super secret one.
That's the co-written one.
The co-written one that's super secret, and no one's going to get to find out what that is.
It's going to be last minute. Yeah, I'm hoping to come out with that one about September-ish, August. Okay. About September. And pretty much I'm just going to drop it.
Are you pumped for that?
Oh, I'm so pumped, dude. And it's not only that, but the story itself has been writing's so difficult, man. It really is. Writer's block's a very real thing. So there's times I'll sit there and nothing will come out, or it'll be really clunky and just
doesn't flow.
What this one, it's just like straight from my brain to my fingertips. So I'm really excited to get it out there. Yeah,
that's fantastic. Yeah. So I mean, it's such an interesting story, and this is one of the reasons that I wanted to get you on, to just hear the arc of so many different things. But I think, if you were to try and work out a consistent narrative of what's happened throughout what you've been doing, it's been a commitment to decisions. It seems it's that I'm going to do something, and it's a full dick and balls, like the full length.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go for it.
Yeah.
And I'm going to decide to lose a leg. I'm going to decide to move out and go to school. I'm also going to decide to go to a different one. For me, certainly I can pontificate about a decision like which fucking yogurt to have for 5 minutes in the supermarket, right? And like, you know, that ability to, that foresight and that ability to choose, I think is really, really important, because there must be so many people, so many veterans and other people in life that they just waver but in this sort of grey area between two things, and that's where nothing gets done, right?
Yeah. It's actually pretty interesting, man, because, you know, like I said, self-doubt, self-hatred are things that I battle significantly, self-doubt. But so self-doubt is in terms of my work. So like doubting my abilities and doubting my storylines and doubting that. But when it comes to decision making, man, my whole life it's been, I make that decision and there's no fucking looking back.
Would you be prepared to outsource decision making? Like if I need some decisions doing, would
absolutely,
you be
bro. Yeah,
I can just send it over to you. No. You want to get the blackberry yogurt. And you want to go for the smoothie.
I'll be a professional decision maker.
I think that you could be.
But I don't like living in that world of like what if, right? Well, what if sucks, man, because you can't. It doesn't, like me. I desperately wanted to play college ball, man. I even tried out for University of Tampa after losing my leg and did well, but not good enough.
Yep.
Always been a dream of mine, and it's something that I do. You know, I think about, I'm like, man, it would have been nice to have that life, but what the fuck can I do about it now, man?
Yeah.
I can't go back in time. I can't do anything about it. So I hate living in that world of what if. It just does me no good, and really my anxiety, it drives it through the roof. So I've learned, when it comes to big life decision making, it's like, for one, put a lot of time and research into it. Make sure you make a solid decision. Two, when you make that fucking decision, stick with it.
Commit to it.
Commit to it fully.
Man, I think it's such a lovely sentiment to have. And when you think, you know, hopefully some of the people that are listening, I think it's very easy. It's the rhetoric of look at how hard someone else's life is. Look at how much someone's been through. But their life's completely different to mine. But when it comes to stuff like decision making and committing to your values and moving forward and doing what it is that you want to do, because I think a lot of the time people know what it is that they want. They just don't have the bravery to pursue it.
Or they're so worried about all the possible outcomes, right? Like it's that's where people get caught, I think, is because they know what they want to do, but they're so like stuck in the future what ifs that they can't make that decision because they're like, well, what if that happens? What if it happens? Or this could happen, or this could happen. It's like, well, yeah, okay.
Yeah, it might do. But
it's the leg. And maybe honestly that leg that leg decision was what led me to where I am now, because that was one where, I mean, the what ifs for that are significant. I mean, you can get an infection and die. I was going
to say, how many things can go wrong?
A lot of things can go wrong. You know, I could have ended up worse, very much so. But the thing is, I did enough research, I put enough time in, talked to enough other amputees where I said, I think I have a great chance of being fine here. I know in my heart of hearts that I have the work ethic to get there. So let's fucking do this. Whereas, you know, in that decision, if I was like kind of wishy-washy, I mean, what do you do? Yeah. I would probably have been in limbo for another 2 years until I finally decided to cut it off, you know? So yeah, that probably was the first decision. That was
that's the sort of the deck of cards just starts to fall from there, right?
Once you make the decision to cut off your own leg, like every decision after that's pretty basic.
Well, on that note, let's finish it there. Can you tell the listeners where they can find you online and where they can get after your books and stuff?
Absolutely, yeah. So bturruela.com is where you URRUELA.com.
Yep.
You can find all my covers on there, some of my short stories, everything's kind of there. VETSports.org for anything VETSports related. We have everything up on there, ways to help, more about who we are and what we do. And then Facebook, obviously, BT Urruela on Facebook. BT's Book Battalion is where we talk all things book related. And Twitter, @BTU Army. I mean, they're all out there.
Amazing.
Yeah, man.
I appreciate your time so much.
Thank you so much, Chris.
Thank you.
Appreciate you, bro.
Bye-bye.